How's it going, guys? So the first round of the Champions League semi-final between Chelsea and Real Madrid and Manchester City versus PSG has just finished up, and based on what I've seen so far, I definitely have to say it's advantage to the two English teams. I mean, I suppose that's kind of a given considering as things stand, it's the two of them that will go through to the final. But it's more than just that. I feel like Manchester City and Chelsea both have their opponents figured out. It's up to PSG and Real Madrid to really come up with something next week, a way to counter them, because as it stands, I do think that it'll be an all-English final. First up, let's talk about the Chelsea-Real Madrid game. It finished 1-1, and I've seen people say that this was a fair result, and I can see why you would think that based on how the whole 90 minutes went. But that being said, Chelsea played some fantastic football at times in this game, far better quality than what Real Madrid were able to put together in their stronger moments. At times we were just playing rings around them. We made them look like a really old team. Modric, Kroos, Marcelo, they looked like aged, tired legs pretty much from the off. Pulisic, Mount, Werner, even Kante in midfield. They just ran around them all game long. Well, maybe not all game long. We did start to tire ourselves in the second half, and I think that's a big reason why we only came away with a draw in the end. But at the end of the day, I think we showed enough to think that we have a really good chance of putting them to the sword in the second leg. We created more chances than they did. A lot of them fell to Timo, who once again didn't have his goal scoring boots on. There were moments in the game where I can see why he's in the team. He brings a lot of pace, energy, puts defenses under pressure, makes good runs, but the finishing just isn't there. There was one in particular where Pulisic pretty much just put it on a plate for him. All he had to do was smash it home. But that's just it. He's so low on confidence that he wasn't willing to just smash it home. He really had to think about what he was doing, concentrate on keeping it on target, and that's the only reason Courtois had any chance of getting across to make the save. But having mentioned the chances we didn't take, let's talk about the one that we did. Tony Rudiger had on a couple of occasions in this game tried to float a ball over the top. Hadn't worked on a few occasions, but on one occasion, it worked out perfectly. Pulisic latching onto it, dances around Courtois, composes himself and slots it home to put Chelsea 1-0 up fairly early on in the game. Unfortunately, since it finished 1-1, obviously we couldn't hold on to it. In some ways, I'd want to criticise the defending. It's just a lumped ball into the box. It's kind of disappointing to end up conceding from that. But with that being said, huge props to Benzema. It was such good improvisation from him, taking the touch on his head to set himself up for a volley on the turn. So, a bit of magic from him. And it's the only reason why Real Madrid go into the second leg with a draw rather than a loss. Now, while the Chelsea-Real Madrid game was intriguing at times in its own way, there's no doubting that for the neutral, the exciting tie was the PSG-Manchester City one. It finished 2-1 to City in the end, but for the first 20-25 minutes, PSG just ripped City apart. Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria, they were basically just toying with their food for that time period, although strangely enough, their goal came from a set piece, Marquinhos once again, but still, at that moment in time, I thought, wow, City are going to get dumped out of this Champions League in spectacular fashion. But no, they dug in, they held on until half-time at just 1-0, and then the second half was just completely different. PSG's mindset was just not the same as what it was in the first half. Neymar, Mbappe, they barely got on the ball at all. Di Maria was the one that kind of tried to do things, but it wasn't enough. They just seemed content with holding on, trying to keep City from getting that away goal, which they failed to do. And it was a farce. Let's be honest, City play a corner short. It ends up with De Bruyne, 35 yards out. He tries to float across in. Nobody gets a touch on it, but that ends up catching Keylor Navas out, and he gets beaten at his far post. We've seen it before, in some ways it just means it was such a brilliant delivery from De Bruyne, but like I said, still a farce at the end of the day. What happened after that, though, was ridiculous because PSG just absolutely capitulated. All they seemed capable of doing was fouling or diving themselves. The theatrics, PSG just have a knack of being at sometimes the prettiest team to watch in world football and at times the ugliest, they're pretty much Neymar personified as a team, which kind of makes sense. But still, they capitulated. They end up conceding again from a free kick. You know, that makes it 2-1. Still far from game over. They had 15-20 minutes maybe left to get themselves back into the game. And then Idrissa Gana Gueye goes and loses his head entirely. Ilkay Gundogan is going back towards his own goal, 40 yards away from Keylor Navas. And Gana Gueye decides to go in and cut him in half. Absolutely ridiculous decision from him. From there on, it pretty much just became damage limitation for PSG. Okay, we'll take the 2-1 loss, go into the second tie with that. And this is the one moment where I have to be quite critical of City, because they just didn't go for the throat. There was a couple of occasions where somebody went for it, but as a team, they didn't commit to just putting PSG to the sword. And it'll be interesting to see if they're made pay for that in the second leg. At the end of the day, lads, the two final spots have so far from been handed out already. You know, in one game, you've got Chelsea, who are probably just about the stronger team, up against Real Madrid, who are the team with all the pedigree, all the Champions League experience in the world. And then in the other tie, you've got Manchester City versus PSG, a battle of the two most chronic bottlers I think this competition has ever seen. So it's still very finely poised. Make sure you comment below who you think will be making your way to the final. I'm still putting my money on the two English teams, but it'll be very interesting to see what happens next. If you've enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, subscribe for more footy chats, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next video.